know why that freaking it was just on, and then I restart the computer, did a Windows update, and then it was stuck, and it says do not shut off your computer. I waited I'm probably closer to 8 minutes. Said screw it, hold the start button, turn it back on, it instantly boots up. So it was stuck in a stupid reboot stage. So anyway, what's up, everybody? Sorry for the late start. You guys had a bit of a conversation. Bait and Kaitos is a boring game. Sure, 12 feet. I haven't played it. I can't comment, but I feel like you're right. You know, I can't argue with you on that one since you played it. Um, Platformer shooters, horror, Zelda type games, and more. So, got a lot of things I want to cover. I want to talk, obviously, about the overly defending of the Switch and Nintendo. And I would even say not just the Switch, but let me change something real quick. Change the game attached to this. So you type in Legend of Zelda and Tears of the Kingdom isn't an option, but if I type in Tears of the Kingdom, it comes up. It's weird, but anyway, obviously talk about that. I'm gonna give my thoughts on a tweet I made about what I've thought about. Finally, I've probably said this before. What's up, Falcon? What's up, 12 feet? We got Lightning. We got Retro. Sandstorm was here earlier. I think he's gone. My least favorite thing about the Switch, which I tweeted about and got some for some reason, anytime you talk about the Switch, people like to project. I know it's not just the Switch and stuff, but people like to project their opinions onto you or as facts. I want to talk about Cyberpunk. I'm playing. Got about 15 hours into that. That was the poll winner for the. I asked people to vote on which the next game I should play. I want to talk about that and go back into talking about bugs and glitches. I know certain people seem to think that my amusement in posting funny glitches somehow is me shit talking games. I don't understand that, but I want to talk about that. Also, there was one more. I know Microsoft had some layoffs. I wasn't planning on talking about that. The Halo 343 confirmed that they're working on the next Halo games for the future, which I think Microsoft's making a mistake, but whatever. I'm not a Halo player, so I really can't comment on that. Also, I just want to share quickly. I've been working with a guy for the last like 4 or 5 months. He's very similar type of guy, a little bit younger than me, but he's always talking about, he's got a Super NES and NES hooked up, and he's talking about playing retro games, and we've talked about very briefly some other like more modern stuff, and finally on Thursday I was just like, have you ever seen or played, like, what's the most recent Nintendo game you played? And he's like, oh, the Wii. I had a bunch of games on the Wii, Galaxy and Mario Kart, and New Super Mario Brothers, Wii Sports, obviously. I was like, have you seen like the latest Zelda game from 2017? He's like, no, I'm not. I think I've seen some screenshots or something. And I showed him. He's like, oh my god, that's the Zelda game. I've seen clips of that on Twitter and stuff. I didn't realize that was like the Switch Zelda game. And I was like, yeah. And I started showing him some clips that I had taken from the early days. And he's like, wow. And I explained it to him. So I went home and I planned on bringing my Switch in the next day, which I did. And he's like, yeah, I picked up a Switch last night. I know a friend of mine, she has 2 of them. Her son never uses it, so she let me borrow it with all her games to see if I wanna get one. And so he had already done that, and he hadn't played it yet. But he was all excited to play Zelda. And then I was like, well, I got my Switch here. I said, yeah, you're always talking about playing old NES games. I said, I got Mario Maker. Why don't you check out some of my levels? And it's just funny because he didn't even know to hold the run button. And like, I was like, how do you not know that? And so you talk about playing retro games, but I'm going to get into that I'll continue this story when I talk about my biggest complaint about the Switch, because he was struggling big time with the Joy-Cons, trying to hold the run button and jump at the same time because of the analog stick being in the way. So I'll talk about that. But it was just cool. He was really excited. He said if he likes it, he might just get the OLED, because I told him how much better the screen looked. He was going to go to Best Buy and check it out. So actually, Switch sales, that was the other thing I want to talk about. Might be a new Switch sale, a new Switch consumer for the fiscal year. So we were chatting. I think Digital Foundry was talking about the Switch potential successor, some actual chipsets that exist that could be, the next Switch, and then Rich made a comment that the report he's seen showed that the Switch sales, and I gotta say this with a caveat. I don't know if he meant globally or just like in the UK where they're from, so don't quote me on this. I should have looked it up, but Nintendo hasn't put out their fiscal report yet. But kind of feel like he might have had some information. Maybe he didn't. He could be completely wrong, but he said 2022 hardware sales were down 21% over 2021. And I had made a comment about it being, that's definitely on the decline, especially with the lineup of games 2022. If that's true, that was globally down 21%. With 2 Pokemon games, you had the return of Wii Sports, Xenoblade Chronicles 3, Splatoon 3. What was the other? I feel like there was one other bigger one that I'm. Kirby and the Forgotten Land. Really well received, sold really well. Kirby game. If you were down 21% over 2021's lineup, that's definitely a sign of, a negative decline. You hit what do you call it, saturation levels, and obviously there's less new people out there. I mean, I might buy an OLED, but I already bought a Switch, so I'm not new to the Switch, but it would count as a new sale. And then just talking about the future of the Switch, we talked on the podcast about the problems they might have with cross-gen. If they try to do cross-gen being cartridge-based, that they might not be able to do cross-gen, because are they going to have 2 separate cartridges? I mean, how would that even work? But I'm pretty much leaning towards a March 2024 for the next Switch. Which would mean we would have to see it revealed this year, probably towards the end of the year, or at least announced, and then maybe see it in December or January, like they did with the Switch originally. But Rob Rule 2 made a great point in his video. The Switch 2 isn't just like this immediate threat to the Switch. Like, I agree, and it's it's not everybody, but I feel like just bringing up the Switch 2 or the Switch Pro, more is definitely more annoying than like a successor to the Switch. But I feel like people's reactions to that lead me to believe they're for some reason threatened by the a new system coming out. Whether that's, I don't know if that's worry that Nintendo's this, if you love the Switch, they're some people say it's the best system Nintendo's ever made, the best library. If you're just worried that that's just gonna come to a halt and the next system might not deliver the goods, it might be a failure. I can see like being worried, like, hey, how it's really difficult. It's probably gonna be really difficult to follow up the Switch. Like they have a lot of things they had to have worked out, questions they had to answer, and things they had to try to predict when designing the next system, which I guarantee you is, been a prototype, probably. I wouldn't say final, but they have a working system right now, and they know what it is. I would be shocked if they didn't. But I don't understand why the reaction to talks of the Switch 2 is met with such, I wouldn't say fear, but so much pushback. Like, I know Clocked It a few years ago was asking, maybe, yeah, it was about probably a year and a half ago or so. Why do you want a new system? Why don't you just want to continue to get new games for the Switch? And I made the point of, well, how many, like, let's just say Mario parties, how many Splatoons are you going to be happy with on the same system? Like Splatoon 2 and Splatoon 3, there's plenty of people bought Splatoon 3, no doubt about it. But are you going to be excited for Splatoon 4 in 2 years on the Switch? Having 3 games that pretty much, I mean, there's not a whole lot that differentiates Splatoon 2 and 3 from the online multiplayer aspect. Like, do you want 4 Splatoon or 3 Splatoons on the Switch? Like, to me, I always look at Nintendo's IPs as a mostly once per generation thing. And it's not to say they can't do sequels, like Galaxy 1 and 2, for instance. We're getting Breath of the Wild and then Tears of the Kingdom 6+ years later. There's nothing wrong with that. It just happens how it happens to work out. If they have a new 3D Mario game this year, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, it's going to be a great game, I'm sure. But at the same time, where would you draw the line? If you don't care, where would you draw the line? 4 3D Mario games on the same system? One of the things I always point out is there would be no Breath of the Wild if we were still on the Wii. I'll get to that in a second, Levon. There would be no Breath of the Wild if Nintendo was still pushing out Wii games. There just wouldn't. The Wii couldn't do Breath of the Wild, period. End of story, no debate. Don't even bother typing. Oh, well, there was Xenoblade. There's so many big, expansive, great games on the Wii. Yeah, but you couldn't have done Breath of the Wild. With the physics system, you just couldn't have done that on the Wii. It's just period, factual. I don't even know if it could have done it at 240p resolution. I think it's more of the CPU, the nature of the physics system, all the AI with the encounters, all the things that can happen, all the interactions with the enemies. You can take a guardian to a stone talus, they'll fight, all that stuff. The Wii wouldn't be able to do that. So with that in mind, then you get the Wii U. Then look at the improvements we got. Look at how good Mario Kart 8 not just looked but played. All the little details of the review system, all the Luigi stare, the mustache flapping, the dirt and sand and snow on the tires, the little details. Easily the best playing Mario Kart game. I think that's hard to deny. Games at 50 million sold, by the way, including bundles. And so who knows what the next Switch, who knows what that's going to open up for Nintendo's talented development teams. Maybe would it just be visuals? They haven't been just visuals on really any leap other than the basically the Wii U to Switch was the least, I would say, is the smallest jump for any hardware, and for Nintendo's. And then you don't have the motion controls to really change, but be a game changer for gameplay. So that made the Wii justified. Like, the Wii was a great system for 480p gaming. It had a lot of great looking games at 480p, and then a lot of those, if you up them to 1080, like on Dolphin Emulator or the ports on Switch, they look great. But the point is, you had a brand new gameplay. Just playing games on the go isn't some revolutionary idea. It's cool that you can play like mainline Nintendo console games on the go, but that's not, the Vita and the PSP did that with PlayStation, so that wasn't a new revolutionary thing. So the Switch, Wii U to Switch was the smallest leap Nintendo's ever had from a technological standpoint. It wasn't their hardware choice. It was just NVIDIA, stock Tegra, downclocked, some custom stuff put in there to make games run better. Mario Kart 8 graphics blew my mind back when it was on Wii U and it ran smooth as fuck. Yeah, and plus, like, just how well it controlled, how much chaos going on screen, like the upside down gravity mechanics, and just, I mean, it's just the sound, the music soundtrack, like everything about that just felt like next gen. Next gen. That was as next gen of a game as we've seen since like the GameCube era with like Metroid Prime. Like Mario Kart 8 just blew people's minds, and then obviously Breath of the Wild runs on the Wii U. So you don't get those experiences if Nintendo just dragged the Wii out for 15 years. So to me, the same thing applies to the Switch. If they drag the Switch's life out 10 years, then the teams are really just have to just really be as creative as possible trying to come up with new things for Mario to do or something, like, because, and I know Retro Death, I know you're here, or you were, there has not been a game come out on Switch, full 3D game, like full 3D camera controls, that's that much, if any, bit visually and more visually impressive than Breath of the Wild at launch. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is a very impressive game. I will say that's the closest, I feel. There hasn't been a whole lot from Nintendo of like full 3D turn your camera type games. But Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is doing some really cool stuff, but not a lot of foliage. Not a very good dynamic weather system. And, the characters look great. The story's awesome. The cutscenes are fantastic. The art direction is great. The visuals are great. But to me, it's different, but it's not better than what Breath of the Wild was doing. So Tears of the Kingdom, we'll see. I don't expect some massive visual improvement. Hopefully there's less haziness on the screen. But yeah, there's not this huge massive jump from Wii U to Switch. And in some cases, like Xenoblade Chronicles 3, they have to run at 540p to get it to look as good as it does. I don't know about X, if that run natively 720. I think it did. But yeah, my point is that if you just never upgrade your hardware, then you're not going to get those big jumps. You're not going to get the Metroid Prime. Yeah, they could have had they tried to, I think it started as an N64 game. You could have had a 3D Metroid game on the N64, and it probably would have been pretty cool. I have no doubt it would have been a good game, because two of the best games of all time, Mario 64 and Ocarina of Time, were on the N64. But Metroid Prime, the moisture on the visor, the atmosphere when you got on Talon 4, like the jungle setting, like I said, you had all the details. You saw Samus's face reflecting. Like, that shit doesn't happen on the N64. I'm sorry, it doesn't. It just simply doesn't. And they're the things we love to talk about to this day, how good that game looks. And that's because of a hardware change. Now, I don't know what's in store for a Switch follow-up, how much of a leap it's going to be with DLSS, upscaling technologies. It could be bigger than we're even thinking. It could be lower than some people's expectations, better than others. According to Digital Foundry, that chip that's available right now, which I can't remember if it was NVIDIA or AMD, because they were just kind of speaking generally about what chips are out there. They said it would be, with its efficiency and stuff, it would be a generational leap in their mind. So, but yeah, I didn't want to make a whole podcast about it, but I do agree with Rob Arula too. I feel some people act like they're threatened by the idea of the Switch 2 at this point. I get the Switch Pro was annoying, all the fake rumors, all that. I get that, but we're about to celebrate the 6th year of the Switch in less than 2 months, and that's Nintendo's normal life cycle. Yeah, I know the Game Boy went for longer, but you could say the Game Boy went for longer because the Game Boy Color came out and extended it. The Game Boy itself didn't go by, the green, whatever that screen, whatever they call that, didn't go that long. The Game Boy Color extended that, which I always thought was a new generation, but Nintendo counts it as the same. So anyway, that's all I got to say about that. I mean, I think it's interesting to theorize about hardware, about just because of the situation. This ain't a PlayStation and Xbox situation. This isn't, well, they're just going to put more RAM a better CPU, better GPU. Like those systems aren't fun to speculate about. Nintendo is, because the Switch, there's so many directions they could go with that. There's so many questions that have to be answered, so many problems that have to be solved with backwards compatibility, like I said, cross-gen. There's so many factors that don't apply to the other systems. You got the cartridge, you got the storage situation. Our game cart's going to be like something they can actually do next time? Is it going to be a digital only system? Is it going to go back to a home console? There's just so many things. That's why it's fun and interesting for me. So, all right, with that out of the way, I'm going to talk a little bit about Cyberpunk. Just kind of a 15 hours in preview or impressions. I will say I'm entertained. There's some funny dialogue. Keanu's character and role has some funny moments. There's some interesting characters. I ain't gonna sit there and tell you that I'm not texting during some of the long-winded cut scenes or skipping through it, because I'm really not that invested at 15 hours in the main character. Her voice actor is dry and dull and doesn't bring any life into the character. I'm sorry, she's not a very good voice actor. She can't convey emotions very good. I don't really care. Is anyone serious not wanting a Switch 2? Yeah, there's definitely people who don't want a Switch 2, but we'll kind of moved on from that. What's up? Incel Game Freak. Good name. But anyway, Cyberpunk, I'm not that invested in the character. The character acting isn't great. The shooting mechanics, they're decent. They're not great. They're not terrible. The melee is throwaway in my opinion at this point. The hacking I haven't really gotten into. I'm sure there's videos on like all this depth that I'm just not experiencing right now. The driving mechanics, I would say, are average. They could be better. They definitely could be better. The visuals are great at times, stunning at other times. Not. I wouldn't say anything to brag about. Like after playing Horizon Forbidden West, obviously completely two different art styles, two different settings, but Cyberpunk doesn't look as next gen as I think I was hoping on the PS5 version. But some nice visuals, character models, sometimes they look good, other times they look, at least on the PlayStation 5, the console version, they look a little dated compared to maybe the PC with all the settings maxed out. I would say the missions, they're pretty similar. Get to a point, talk to a person, I should say. Whether you have to go take somebody out, you got to go make a deal for somebody, and some shooting involves or some stealth. I haven't been like bored after 15 hours. I haven't been doing the exact same thing over and over. Been doing some side quests, just trying to earn money. You find guns and loot and everything, everywhere. I don't see why you'd even have to buy a gun, even though there's gun shops and stuff. But just pretty early in. I don't think it's a super long game if you just do the main story, but I'm expecting 50, 60 hours. I don't know how the PC could have less glitches, because the glitches are what I would say hard-coded into the damn open world. It's not like hey, the PS5 and Series X are like they're x86 architecture. Like the PC's x86. It's the same code. You'd have performance issues. You'd have crashes and stuff, but just the general janky clunkiness of the open world, I don't see how that's. I mean, there was so many videos about the comparisons between GTA and Cyberpunk, and it was the PC version. So I'd say the biggest negative is the open world, the AI, just everything involved, all the systems in place for the open world. So the driving, the interaction, like there's no car damage from what I can tell. The interacting with like curbs and railings and street lights, it's just everything feels wonky. Collisions with other vehicles is just jank. Like it's like it feels so like it's not like you're running through cars like in Xenoblade Chronicles X, but it ain't much better than that. I mean, they hit, but then they just kind of bounce off and they just continue to go. The AI, the our NPCs, they feel completely fake, lifeless. I mean, GTA 3 was doing stuff that this game doesn't do. So to me, that's the biggest shortcoming, the biggest thing that could have elevated this game to something truly special. Would have been if they had nailed the open world and they nailed the all the systems, like the rain, the weather. If it had like some awesome storms and dynamic weather like that, I'm sure it looks better on PC, but it still just feels very artificial, very it's just it just doesn't feel like a living breathing city. And I think if it did, like this would be, I mean, this would have easily been game of the year contender, legit game of the year contender, minus the bugs and stuff. The launch was terrible, but just the open world itself is so far from what GTA like 3 and I mean even GTA 3 a little bit, 3 mostly 4 and then 5. Like it's so far from that as far as just like Mr. used, you get, I forget which one it was. I think it was 4, maybe even San Andreas. You could get pedestrians to fight each other. There was all kinds of banter going on when you walk by people. This just feels so like it was just an algorithm that threw all these people together, and the characters you walk by, they're having conversations. It just feels so fake. It doesn't feel, like I said, or I didn't say this, but it doesn't feel organic, and it doesn't feel like a living, breathing city. The story is interesting. Sucks that the main character's not interesting or engaging. The main idea is cool. Keanu Reeves' character's really cool, but I just want to drive home this, like, if you put on the blinders and you don't try, if you didn't bump into stuff and you just avoided any contact walking or driving, you wouldn't notice the issues as much. But as soon as you hit something, as soon as you run somebody over accidentally or crash into a car, you just taken right out of the moment because there's no damage. Cars just bounce around. Yeah, man, I would hope if they get another shot at this, if they try to make a sequel or something, do the Breath of the Wild thing, because Breath of the Wild, without the world feeling so alive with the physics and the dynamic weather and stuff, you take that out, Breath of the Wild isn't nearly as special as if it played kind of like Skyward Sword, if it looked like, not looked visually, but if it was just like the general Zelda Skyward Sword world, where it was a bigger environment, but it felt very contained. There wasn't, like I said, you couldn't have a Guardian and a Stone Talus fighting, or a Hinox fighting a Guardian. None of that happened, and none of this cool stuff people are posting 6 years later. You take all that away, and then Breath of the Wild still going to be a great game, but it's not going to be a legendary game. It's not going to have developer roundtables. It's not going to have Twitter and YouTube clips of all the cool shit people are doing 6 years later. So if Cyberpunk had that, but in a city, yeah, this game would have been something special. So that to me is the biggest thing lacking. It looks very nice, but when you really dive in, it's just very superficial. So, and the last thing is, yes, this game has exceeded Days Gone as by a lot, the glitchiest game I've ever played. Pretty much can't go 5 minutes without, you turn the camera, all of a sudden a car looks like it fell from 5 feet in the air and bounces off the ground, or the front end will be like, the ass end of the car will be like way up in the air and then it drops down. You have pedestrians clipping. I had a guy he started walking and I was in the way, and all of a sudden he just like was on top of this machine as he's clipping through it. You have a bunch of weird audio glitches. The motorcycle driving's crazy. Cutscenes, like I posted today, like this, she was sitting there like she was on a motorcycle but hovering. Shit's funny. So I don't know. I don't want to name any names. I don't know why anyone thought that was me saying anything other than look how fucking hilarious this is. I laughed my ass off when it happened. Um, and I think the shit's funny. It actually, to me, adds to the charm of Cyberpunk after 2 years. And then, like I told the guys, like, it's one thing to see clips, to hear about it, but to actually experience this game, and I could probably have a stopwatch. I don't think there's any boss fights. I haven't encountered any boss fights. I bet I can't go 5 minutes without seeing something wonky. It's just weird. Plus, just like there's like moments when you're on a mission and there's a character slow walking and you got to stay with them. And I was like following one character and I stopped, and all of a sudden the other character, all of a sudden I was inside his head. I saw his eye sockets and like the inside of his, it wasn't like a skull, but I was like basically inside the person. Then he walked through me. It's just constant. Sometimes they're hilarious. Other times I'll chuckle or I'll just take notice. They don't bring the game down for me. Like, I find it almost helps. Like I said, it's almost like a charming thing at this point. So I post 3 posts on Twitter. I thought they're all funny ones. I did call out Robert because he's Mr. Never Seen a Glitch guy, no matter what. But he did say he's seen them in this game, but doesn't really, like, to me, I just think it's funny. So if I tweet it, that's what I'm doing. I'm gonna continue to tweet funny things, whether it's Jedi Fallen Order. I was a bit annoyed by that one because I couldn't even walk around without my character getting stuck or falling or clipping through stuff. So that one I was a little annoyed. With this game, it's all joy for me. It's all funny. The only one that was negative was I was texting the guys. We were having a debate, and I didn't select an option, and it disappeared. And then I sat there for 5 minutes around a campfire, and it didn't give me the prompt again. So I had to load up my previous save, and then I had to hit it, and then it instantly cut to another scene. So that's the only time I've had an issue where it actually affected me. So anyway, it's fine. It's nothing revolutionary. The gameplay's mid-tier, I would say. It's not bad. It's not great. But I'm having fun. I'm gonna finish it. I said I would. I bought it for $10. I was gonna play it. If I hadn't made the poll and said, yeah, I'll finish it, I might. I'm not feeling like super compelled to play it. It's not like God of War or Ragnarok towards the end of the year. I couldn't, I put like 4 or 5 hours, get home from work the next day. I was like, fuck, I want to play more. It's not like one of those games. It's like I went like 2 days, 3 days without playing it. So it's not calling my name, but I will get through it. And then after that, I'll probably play Sekiro. Dead Space Remake comes out. It's $70 though. It better be like 10 out of 10 type of game. Like, I better hear that it's very true to the original, improves upon it in every single way, and it's amazing. Even then, I still don't think I'm gonna pick it up for 70. I have it on PC through. I don't even have Origins installed anymore. I had it on my profile, so I could play it on PC. It's just the 360 version at higher resolution, but what else? I think I'll get into, well, first off, I was digging through my controllers and I found I knew it was there, but I just wanted to show this bad bear. I bought this and a yellow one for GoldenEye. It was I had 3 controllers just for GoldenEye. Oh, you were playing NES games? I don't know what that is. But this controller's in pretty good shape. The analog stick had a lot of shaved plastic inside. I cleaned this out 2 years ago. My original gray one that came with the system didn't. So that one's held up better. But just feeling this D-pad. Just feeling, the nice ergonomics here. Oh, yeah, I was playing Tecmo Bowl, which I'm still I haven't lost my skills. I was so good at Tecmo Bowl, no one wanted to play against me. So I've basically most of my life had to play against the the AI, if you will, and I've learned how to really beat the AI really well. I'd love to play against somebody someday. But anyway, N64 controller. I was surprised at how clean this thing is. I guess I shouldn't be because I usually keep it packed away. So I'm going to talk about my least favorite thing about the Switch. Then we'll get into the unnecessary defending of even comments that aren't even negative about the Switch. So if you saw my tweet, not a lot of people reacted to it. There was another tweet too, which I was kind of like disappointed. I feel like if I almost have to clickbait people sometimes to get like, because most time I tweet something, it's because I'm looking to like get a conversation. Oh, yeah, I talked about the Switch 2 earlier. Somebody was talking about why you guys always talk about the Switch 2, but people have been talking about the Pro for 3 years, and so I just posted, FYI, I just want it to be known that I've been ready for a Switch Pro/2 since Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity released in 2020, November 20th. And there is nothing you can say to change my mind. There isn't. I've been ready for a Switch Pro since that game specifically. That being said, if you're totally content with the current Switch, then that's cool with me. I have no problem with anybody. It only got 9 likes. Like, I get it. I didn't say anything like controversial, but it's like, if I had just said this, like, man, the Switch sucks or something, I feel like I would have got a lot more. And I'm not, like I said, I'm out looking for conversation. And that one I was kind of making a point because somebody was calling out people for asking for the Switch. Why are you asking for the Switch 2? Also, not one last thing too. Monster Hunter Rise has come out on PS5 and the Xbox Series X and S, and it barely looks any better than the Switch version because just adding higher resolution, some cleaner textures, and some better shadows doesn't magically change a game's visuals. That is an example, in my opinion, and we probably talk about this on a podcast, why the Switch shouldn't be the lead platform for multiplats for big third-party games. Monster Hunter Rise was designed for the Switch and the Switch's limitations. Unless Capcom wanted to basically redevelop the game to add a bunch more assets and expand on anything or improve, like greatly improve textures, or not textures, character models, you have to add polygons. Like, unless they wanted to do that, you basically have to have 2 teams anyway, so you might as well, maybe you could argue, hey, there should be Switch team from the ground up when a game's inception, and then the other systems, so they can add, just like the cross-gen Horizon Forbidden West. They made sure the PS5 version had significant advantages over the PS4 version. But Monster Hunter Rise, to me, I never liked how that game looked. I didn't think it was technically impressive on Switch, or visually artistically impressive. I don't think that game looks good at all. So seeing it at higher resolutions on PS5 doesn't make it look really any better. But that's an example, I feel, of why you shouldn't make the Switch the lead platform. It's just going to hold back, or you just got to have another team to add a bunch of stuff to really take advantage of the other systems. But anyway, so I tweeted my least favorite thing about the Nintendo Switch. I was thinking about this a lot. For me, it's the goddamn Joy-Cons with their tiny and badly placed buttons, terrible analog sticks, no D-pad, and complete lack of ergonomics. Such a disappointing standard controller. And I truly believe that. And if you were here at the beginning, I was telling you about the guy at work who was trying to play Mario Maker. He was trying to hold the run button and then hit, because he's holding the Switch. He's new to him. He was holding it, like, so his thumb was straight up. I was like, here, hold it out like, pretend the Switch is here. I was like, hold it out like that, and then you can hit the buttons. He was like this, and he could not hold the run button and jump at the same time. he's like, this is terrible. And I said, yeah, you might want to get a Pro Controller if you get the Switch. Now, I put a D-pad on this, did a custom case, shell, I should say, and the D-pad is great. I love the D-pad on this. So for me, it's just all about this right analog stick is in the way of the B button, and the buttons are so close together. On Mario Odyssey, I couldn't perform the long jump, throw, bounce off your hat mechanic consistently because these buttons are so close together. And it's the main controller. It's what comes on with the system. You have to go out and buy a Pro Controller for $70 or something comparable if you want to play with something different. To me, I made a video about this. It's the worst standard controller since the Sega Genesis. You know, the Dreamcast had issues, but it was better. The Saturn launch one, I think, I never actually played with it. It doesn't look great. Even the DualShock 2, DualShock 3, which I don't like at all, vastly superior to these little ass Joy-Cons. So, got in a discussion, and one of the things people kept saying, and this will get into the unnecessarily defending of Nintendo. First of all, I was told that if I like the Wii, there's no reason I shouldn't like these Joy-Cons. No reason whatsoever. Must be smoking crack if you don't like the Joy-Cons. I love them, was a comment. Like, how I don't understand projecting your opinions onto other people. Like, first, you're assuming I like the Wii. Secondly, you're assuming that the Wii remote nunchuck is liking that means I have to like these. I'm sorry. There's no ergonomics. There's nothing to grippy. I hate with the strap on there. I like them like this more than with the strap. Tiny buttons. The analog sticks have almost no travel. The clicking them isn't great. The plus and minus buttons are tiny. Reaching down to hit the home button or the screenshot button, it's trash. I'm sorry. If you like them, cool. Don't tell me that I have to like them, or don't tell me that I can't not like them. These things are borderline unusable for most games for me. I tried playing split Joy-Con for Breath of the Wild. It's playable, but that's the other thing. This is where my thumb is. Now I gotta hit to the right and to the left. Like, that's such an awkward. I'm used to my thumb. Let me use this. I'm used to my thumb being at an angle, not being straight up and down. So, and even it's just, I'm sorry. This is just how I feel. These things suck. And it really greatly negatively affect my thoughts on the Switch the first day I had it. I went out and bought a Pro Controller the next day. So, and I've used it ever since. I've had the same one. I love it. It's great. If you love these, more power to you. I mean, props to you. But the thing that kept coming up is, well, it's two controllers, so you get two controllers for one. I'm not going to name any names, but you tell me that this is a legit controller option that you would play. Like, if you had the choice between like this as a standard controller or like this as a control, like, I guess it works when you need it to. It is functional. I'm not saying they're not functional. So you have this analog sticks in the middle here. You have these shoulder buttons for Mario Kart you have to hit to drift and shoot your weapons. You can play the games. I'm not saying you can't. But don't try to tell me that this is like, if they sold this, if Sony or Xbox sold something just like this. This is a controller. Here you go. Here's a $40, $50 controller. You're telling me it wouldn't get laughed right out of the market. It probably wouldn't even make it to launch. It would be so criticized. I get it, because these slide in, and then they can be used like this. That this one functionality it's not the main reason. It's not the main way. You don't have to play like this. And yeah, if you have a family and you're playing Mario Party and stuff, it works. But you're not gonna do a 6 hour Mario Kart session with one of the. You're just not. I don't even think your hands would let you. So for me, this is not worth this functionality. I don't care. Like some people have used it a bunch. Other people may have never used it. I used it once for Mario Kart, and I vowed to never use it again. To me, this functionality is not worth all the sacrifice. It's not worth the button layout, the stick being here right underneath the buttons. It's not worth the lack of ergonomics. It's not worth this tiny size. The Split Pad Pro and Bing Box, they don't give a shit about sideways, and I know those are quite popular. Now, did they sell millions? I don't know, but you can't use those sideways. Like you could, but it'd be because of the whatever, what do you call it, in the way. It would be very difficult. So I guess you like it, you know. Slide the top on. You talking about that stupid grip thing? I hate that. That makes it feel worse to me. So we got in a discussion following that well, the Wii Remote and Nunchuck, I love that freedom of the Wii Remote and Nunchuck. So do I. It's my favorite controller. It's the most comfortable and my favorite just chill, play a game, controller, thing I've ever used in my life. Like this right here, that's pure gaming bliss for me. Like hands apart, relaxed, not cutting my circulation by having my arms resting on my thighs, just relaxed, playing when I don't have to use the pointer. This is my favorite control setup of all time. Unfortunately, they didn't double down. What they could have done is you could have made this clickable. That gives you one extra button functionality. You could have put a button down here. You could have had 3 buttons on this. Could have put a analog stick instead of a D-pad. You could have put a D-pad on here, like right here, maybe. I don't know. Or you could have had a D-pad down here, had an analog stick or an analog stick here, D-pad up here. Or you could have just had 4 buttons here. You got the one underneath, you got the B. You could have, or this is A, this is B, sorry. I forgot about B being under there. You could have had 2 or 3 buttons here or something, and for the next iteration, and had way more functionality on top of the motion, the pointing. This could have been awesome. This right here, that is so comfortable. Look at this. Look at this versus, where's the left one? Here's what's in your left hand versus this. I mean, literally, this is a fair 1-to-1 comparison. You have this versus this. If you'd rather have this sideways Joy-Con than ergonomics and stuff, hey, cool for you. Not for me. So, and then we got in the whole debate about, well, this works sideways. Yes, it does. Thanks to this giving you a grip. I personally did not enjoy the Wii Remote sideways without this, which came standard on every controller, because Nintendo realized you need a little grip there. So even this had ergonomics. D-pad placement's great. The 1 and 2 is great. You can easily hit the A button if you needed to. But this doesn't work for every Wii game. You can use the pointer, but this couldn't work like this with what you got. I guess if you hit the B button, you have 4 buttons and the D-pad. You can't play most games like this. You can play 2D side scrollers, fighting games, possibly. Most games you want more than a couple buttons, and you don't want to have to take your finger off the D-pad to hit a button. So But comfortable, designed mainly for the NES on the Virtual Console. You couldn't play Super Nintendo games with this. For some stupid reason, they made Other M play like with this. Just, I mean, what's wrong with this? You have one of the best analog sticks ever, other than it's not clickable. So yeah, you could, this is a good example of a bigger controller that can be played sideways. And if they had designed more buttons, if they had the diamond shape here, and maybe put an analog stick, the D-pad, then the analog stick, you could have made this a pretty universal controller. But because this, technically has more functionality with 6 buttons and an analog stick. But just want to say, This Goes Down is my favorite, especially like Clacked It, if he's here. He said he played Donkey Kong sideways. I don't know why you would, but to me this was the way. This is how I played Tropical Freeze. This is the only way I ever played Tropical Freeze, other than when I tried off TV on the gamepad. Tropical Freeze, Pikmin. This is how I play. I'm not gonna play Pikmin any other way. We'll see with Pikmin 4. I love this. Metroid Prime trilogy. This is the only way to play Metroid Prime 1, 2, and 3, in my opinion. So, love this controller. I don't know if I've ever really said that. Anyway, that's going to lead into the overly defending Nintendo. Just me saying that these sideways Joy-Cons weren't worth having this terrible layout, and I get, I use those all the time. I love using those. It's like, really? You can't just admit that this is not a comfortable controller. You gotta try to spin it like it's great, or like it's fun, like it's good. Just say, yeah, it kind of sucks, but, it works at least, when you have to. But yeah, it's not the best. Just say that. Move on. When somebody tweets that they wish they had more themes on the frickin' Switch other than the dark and the light, why is there a quote tweet saying, oh, you don't play themes, you play video games? They made it to play video games. PCs and cell phones can do that. Nintendo doesn't make games for PC, cell phone. Just say, yeah, it sucks. I mean, it would be cool if you had more color options, if you had some customization. Why type out this bullshit defense? It's not even an attack. It's just, hey, I would like themes. Like, that would be cool. The 3DS had themes. That came out, 2011? That had freaking themes. Tell me the Switch can't do themes? I'll show you right now what the Switch can do. It's just stupid. It's not being attacked. This isn't like, I get it when someone says something stupid like, oh, the Switch is not a 9th gen console. Well, it is, technically. Hardware-wise, it's nowhere near the level of PS5 and Xbox One, but it's a 9th gen system. I mean, that's just factual. So, let's see. A lot of games work sideways. We went through this, dude. Like 6-7 games work sideways. Like mainline Wii games. Out of hundreds of games, I could name 20 games that you can't play without the nunchuck, let alone sideways freaking Wii remote. I don't know why we have to have this discussion again. There's like 6 or 7 games on Wii you could play, like mainline Wii games. Not the Virtual Console.
Like majority. Whenever you get access, mine come up later.
Dude, why can't you just have a fucking video of? Oh, it's a tutorial. I don't want a tutorial. I want to. Of course, tutorials are probably helpful. I'm not saying I like these. I'm just showing you what hackers have done.
You can see we've got a nice, clean-looking lock screen with the new section removed.
I don't think I can share.
An optional animated lock button, which will animate if you touch the screen. And on the home
screen,
screen, we're treated to this glorious artwork. You'll also be able to notice the game icons animate as I cycle between them here. Now, if I select a game and bring up the user page, you'll see that it's also got a custom user selection screen. Along the left-hand side of the home screen, you'll be able to see there are custom icons for the settings, controller, sleep,
There we go.
and album icons.
All
These
right.
custom icons, animated Switch themes to make
This
the rounds.
is a
I was totally
launch day
blown away by this
Switch
release. And after
with
being
a custom
invited to join
theme.
NSX's Discord server, I realized
Now
that this Back to the
it's
Future
stupid,
theme was no
in my
fluke.
opinion. I don't
JVG
like
has
it.
a really good eye for
I don't like
design
the
and has released multiple
fan art.
beautiful themes like
You know,
this one. and
obviously
has
this
Discord
person loves
server.
Back to the Future. What
I
it
haven't really seen
proves
anyone else
is that you
working
can have
on releasing
interactive
animated Switch themes
moving
at all,
themes
and I
on the
definitely feel
Switch.
like NSX
The
is
hardware
of
that
such a high quality
it launched
that deserves to be
with,
seen by more
still
people.
play your games,
The main
still
reason
show
I
your
wanted to get
games.
this video uploaded was to
So
showcase
it's
some of
just
my
this is
favorite
just to
animated
show
Switch
it's
themes
possible.
by
People
NSX,
modders can
as
do
well
it. You
as
tell me
sharing invite
Nintendo
links to
can't
this
do it.
Discord server,
I seen
you can download
sorry
them if
Shadow
you would like
Fox
to run them on
say
your
that
Switch.
oh it's a
Before we get
different
into checking out
it's
the
a different
themes, I should
OS.
also
It's
go
this
over
instead
the
of the
highlights where we
3DS
see
is
the very
whatever the
handy
3DS
NX
was.
themes installer
Like-
Chrome Pro. All of the custom themes shown in this video. are
Oh,
in the
so you're
.exe
saying Nintendo's
file
just
format, which
incapable
means
or
two things.
incompetent? Is that
Firstly,
what you're
these
saying? They're incompetent because modders and hackers can do it? Why can't Nintendo do it? Like, and I don't even give that many shits about themes, to be honest. It's just, at this point, I've given up. I don't even bother asking. But what's the excuse? Nintendo could do more. They should have done more. Why isn't there? You know, oh, PS5 doesn't have themes. Well, when I hover over a game, most games give me a custom audio from the game, and then it tells me my achievements or screenshots, other people's uploads. It gives me all kinds of stuff when I hover over the game. You know, it shows me my trophies or recent trophies. Like, it's not just a dead thing. It's interactive. Each game, like I said, now I'll have like down below, I'll have a story associated with that game or uploads. People uploaded clips and stuff. Like, that's so much better. Just seeing, like, I know Switch don't have trophies and stuff, but just seeing that, having the music change when I hover over freaking like Horizon, it plays a beautiful, like I don't know what you describe it, like a woman, she's singing, but it's not quite opera, but you know, it's really cool. Yeah, I got that Days Gone trophy. I was booting that up because I was waiting for Cyberpunk to update, 16 gigabyte update, and I was blown away how good Days Gone looks for being a PS4 game, just running at 60 FPS. That game had dynamic weather. That had really good dynamic weather system. That's something for me personally that really elevates a game. And I do miss it when it's not in there. Like, imagine Xenoblade Chronicles 3 with like dynamic storms coming in. Like, you're walking and your characters are like covering their face from the rain blowing sideways and lightning, and you see the creatures when the lightning strikes. Like, yeah, maybe it doesn't work for that style game, but imagine how cool that would be. Like, so I love dynamic weather. Breath of the Wild was just absolutely blew my mind when I first saw, like, you get off the plateau and the day-night cycle kicks in, and then the weather system. I was by like Hylia Bridge, there's a memory up there on a hill, and the dark clouds came in and the storm and the grass is just blowing. If Satoru Iwata was alive, I'm sure we'd get themes, music backgrounds, and Miiverse sounds. I don't know about Miiverse, but I feel like it would have a lot more personality. That's the other thing. Somebody just said, man, you know what I'm missing on what the Switch is missing? It had the Wii's menu, the OS, music, the DS, the 3DS, the Wii U, and then went to the Switch, and it was dead silent. Oh, well, you don't play the OS. Dude, he just says he's missing. Music is missing from the OS. Like, it's a nice little thing that he misses. Why do you got to defend that? Like, just say nothing. If you don't care, just say nothing. That's not a major complaint. That's not somebody being an asshole or an ignorant Nintendo hater. That's just something, man. I love the music in the other systems, and I miss it on Switch. Like I said, the overly defense shit. Like, honestly, all right, I'm gonna hold something up. This has nothing to do with the Switch, but just tell me your thoughts when you see this in the chat, if you want to say. You see this thing, what's your first thought? type it in the chat. Those watching on the replay. This is the Wii Classic controller with the completely never used button that does something. I don't know what that was supposed to do. Cord in the bottom, like the freaking Dreamcast. So first thing that came to mind with this controller. So you're saying Super NES games? I was thinking more related to the controller, but yeah, that's the first thing. Donnie, remember when they had accomplishments on 3DS Street Pass? Imagine if you went and did that again. The only kind of achievements they have is getting silver points for playing few games. Comfortable? No, this isn't a Super NES controller. I was thinking cheap garbage. Well, that's what I was thinking. That's all this brings back. Not only is this analog stick make the DualShock 3's analog stick placement seem good, they're not clickable. Your thumbs you can't not collide. Your thumbs cannot, like if you had to do something in a dual stick game, your thumbs collide. There's no way around it. D-pad's solid. Mine, when I'd press up, it would go right, or when I press right, sometimes it'd go up. Buttons are a little far apart. The analog shoulders aren't bad. So you love it. I hated it. You got the, this probably should have been on top. This is just a cheap controller. It's $19.99. It's lightweight. It's chintzy. My sticks are discolored. The white's discolored. It's yellow. Not because they're dirty. It's just discolored over time. It's just not a great controller. Okay controller at best. Luckily, it was only 20. I feel like at $20, I feel like it was a little high. 10, 15 maybe. I never liked this thing. I got it so I could play Ocarina or Link to the Past on the Virtual Console and Super Metroid. So, while I was just kind of ripping this controller, did any of you feel compelled to defend its honor? Let's see. It had the Wii Pro thing that looked like the Wii was gross. So yeah, the Pro version of this was great, even though the analog stick situation was still the same. I just wonder if anybody felt. I mean, I know people on the podcast who have talked about this trash controller. We made fun of Robert. This is how he played. Some Wii, I think GoldenEye you can play with just this. Call of Duty, I think he played with this instead of the Wii Remote Nunchuck. And we made fun of him for it because it's a shit controller. It just is. You might like it, but as a Super NES controller, it's not. It's pretty good. But as a modern controller, dual analogs, it's not great. And my D-pad wasn't perfect. Like I said, I would play like Street Fighter and I'd press right and he'd jump or whatever because it would hit up. Yeah, no drift. I mean, how would you know that? Unless, I don't know, other than Robert, I can't imagine too many people played extensively with that, but that's how you played the N64. But anyway, I just gave some valid complaint about the analog sticks being too close together. I guess I'm wondering if anybody felt compelled to jump to the defense of that controller or the Wii. I wish I had the Pro. I almost bought the Pro, but I just didn't want to put any more money. I had 3 of these for Wii Sports, and didn't really want to put any more money towards the Pro version. So my point is, I feel like if this was a Switch accessory, if I had said that, I feel like I would have been attacked. It's something about the Switch. I don't know what it is. Not everybody, but it gets defended when it's not even attacked. People want every freaking game that's ever existed to come to it. I've never seen a system where people begging for games, old games, so much. Oh my God, give us I got an argument with Sandstorm about Grand Theft Auto 5, which I guess they could bring it and probably makes sense. But Red Dead Redemption, he pointed that out. What is it with wanting all these old games on the Switch? I don't understand it. That's a phenomenon I don't understand. I want new games. I buy the Switch to play new games. Yeah, it sells. It's the most perfect. Oh, I want to play. The Borderlands collection came out. They didn't give you 3. Where's all the Borderlands fans complaining? Why didn't I get 3? Why did I get these old games? Oh, I'm excited. I'm going to buy Borderlands collection. What's going on, Aunt? Can I call you Aunt? Aunt Trite 08. I just don't understand the obsession with the Switch and getting every old game onto it. The old, so-and-so game is trapped on the Wii U, or is trapped on the PS3, or trapped on the PS2, trapped on the GameCube. I just don't understand. I'm not the biggest retro gamer. I play games very extensively. On my first time, I play them, and then I may never play them again, or years later. Like God of War Ragnarok. I'll discuss this next on the Monday's Game of the Year podcast. I 100%ed platinum trophied it in my first playthrough, 54 hours. I don't know if ever, I'll go back and play that game. That's all I'm going to say. I'll save the rest, but that's something I think about. Elden Ring, I'm already like a quarter of the way through my second playthrough in the same year. Breath of the Wild, I played it 2.5 times. I put 4.5 hours on Breath of the Wild last night looking for Korok seeds. About an hour and a half on the Great Plateau. I found 11 Korok seeds on the Great Plateau. Some games I can play, other games I don't go back to. So my point is, I don't need to play Dead Space, original Dead Space, or Dead Space trilogy on the Switch. I'd rather play the Dead Space remake. And actually, what I've said many times, horror games are in my opinion, the best candidate for a graphical remake, because the more realistic, gory, if that's a gory game, the more realistic the shit looks, the scarier a horror game's going to be. So I would rather buy the remake than buy the old Dead Space and play it on Switch. I'm not saying I wouldn't if it was available. I'm not saying I wouldn't have bought it. It'd be one of the few games I would be, because I haven't played it in years. I haven't played it since like 2011, 12, when Black Ops 2 came out. 2012. I played Dead Space through 3 times straight on Xbox 360, and then I started on PC. But I'm not, man, I wish Dead Space was on the Switch. Man, I loved, I liked that Grid racing game that's now on the Switch. I wasn't like, man, I'd love to play Grid on the Switch. I'd love to play Dead or Alive 4 on the Switch. Man, I'd love to play it. I played that. I have it on 360. I enjoyed it. I don't need to play it on the Switch. I just don't understand that phenomenon. But I think it ties into, it's just something about the Switch. Why it gets defended when it's not even being attacked, I don't know. Why do people get all threatened or act all threatened by the Switch successor 6 years later after the system's been out 6 years? Obviously, the hardware is out of date. We're still getting great games. Xenoblade Chronicles 3, Bayonetta 3 last year. Arceus was good. I don't blame the hardware for not Sword and Shield, but Scarlet Violet. But, Luigi's Mansion 3 is great. I'm not saying I wouldn't play a Luigi's Mansion 4 if it came out on Switch and looked, just as good as it did 3 does. But at the same time, I'd like to see what Next Level could do with the next Switch for Luigi's Mansion 4. Take it to the next level. So Joy-Con boys, be crazy. But anyway, the defense of the Switch, the demanding games, the damage control, for Joy-Con drift. Shadow Fox pointed out the kickstands, definitely the original kickstand. What a piece of junk. I mean, it's laughable. We made fun of that video where that dude kept knocking it over. That was legit. Basically, that video didn't do good enough a job of showing how piece of shit that kickstand was. Mine wouldn't even stay closed after like a year, maybe 2 years. I would have the Switch handheld and the kickstand would drop. I was like, fuck. They had the cracking issue. You have the screen getting scratched by the dock. You have the no price drop. Everybody's complaining about game prices going up. Now, I haven't heard one like legit Nintendo fan that I know or anybody I follow or retweet where someone's like, why hasn't the Switch had a price drop after almost 6 years? Why the hell hasn't there been a price drop? I'm telling you right now, Sony or Xbox did this almost 6 years in, and their system didn't have a price drop, people would be calling them out like crazy. Why? They put a more efficient chip that was the new process, a smaller chip. They boosted the battery life. I don't know for a fact, but usually when they switch to a new process, die shrink, it's a more efficient chip and it's cheaper than trying to make the original Tegra 1, force that to keep being made versus let's go to this new one to the smaller size and actually save money or not have it cost more. Not other than the OLED, they didn't increase storage, they didn't improve anything else other than they put a more efficient chipset in there and you got better battery life. They didn't fix the dock. I mean, I guess they probably tweaked the dock, but I still see people saying it's even the OLED you could have potential. I don't know if that's true or not, but then the OLED comes out and it's $350. It did all the things that should have just been part of, like, if PlayStation 4 Slim. 3 years after the PS4, you get the Slim. It has greatly reduced size, and it goes from 400 down to 300. And then when I got it, it was 200. They had a sale, but it was a $299. They dropped the price $100. It was smaller, more efficient, and it was $100 cheaper. And then the Pro come out at the price of the old PS4 price of $400, gave you a terabyte of storage and more performance. I don't know if the Pro ever got a drop. Maybe it went down to $300. Let's see. Overly defending the shitty interface. I don't know if I call the Switch interface shitty, but I would call it dated. I would call it dull. I would call it lifeless. Just add some music or something, or have, when you highlight over a game, like Clocked said, make it more clear which game is inserted and which games aren't. So, slightly gray out all the icons for cartridge-based games that I own if the cartridge isn't in. So you'd have your digital games, and then have a clear icon, which it has if you hover over it, that says, hey, this is the game cart. Have the game cart slot be identified so that you don't eject the cart while your game is like being suspended, and then you might lose some shit. So I know people who lost their kickstands, even mine keeps falling off. Why have a price drop when you can sell Wii U games more expensive than the previous gen? Why defend the lack of a price drop? That's the other thing. Why defend it? You're not, like, all these people, you're not getting paid by Nintendo. You're not getting profit sharing. You're going to say, why would they do a price drop? Because every system in history has done a fucking price drop within 3 years. Why? If they don't do a price drop, they give you more memory or they give you an improved system for the same price. So you say, the battery life improvement. Okay, for portable play, you got an improvement in 2019. What dock players get? Nothing. I'd call the Switch UI underwhelming. That's basically what it is. Functional, gets to the point. There's not clutter, but it could be better. Can't message your friends. That kind of stuff is legit. Like, either it's a gripe, a criticism, or a hope for the next system. There's no reason to defend it. There's no reason to make excuses. There's no reason there should be a $300 Switch in 2023 with 32 gigs of storage. There's just no excuse for it. The chip shortages and stuff. Nintendo I've never seen Switches out of stock. Every time I've ever been to a store, Switches are in stock all last year, all 2021. OLEDs, lights, everything. They just announced they're ramping up production. I wonder if that has anything to do with the fact that they didn't hit their sales target for last year. That, I don't know if it was their target. It was down 21% if that report was true. They got Tears of the Kingdom coming out. I have a feeling they have Metroid Prime 4 possibly, a new 3D Mario game, or a couple other heavy hitters if they're planning to ramp up production. After last year's lineup was, I would say objectively, was the best lineup since 2017 for Switch. And your sales were down, so there's something coming. There's no way Tears of the Kingdom alone is going to do that when 2 Pokemon games, a Splatoon 3, Xenoblade Chronicles 3 couldn't. I know Zelda's great and all, but even I gotta realize it's, Breath of the Wild was the exception. Pokemon's consistently outsell. Pikmin 4 is not going to move Switches. It's going to get bought by people who have Switches. It's not going to sell people on Switches. Sorry. I bought my Wii U Zelda Wind Waker edition when they dropped the price. Yeah, that was the only unique Wii U with the gamepad. Wind Waker HD, great. That was a great remaster. Probably the best remaster of all time. It's not a remake. It only took them 6 months. They just upped the res, add some bloom lighting, did some texture work, and that's, quality of life features. And that game looks stunning. Still does. I think that ran at 1080p 30. Be nice to have a 60 FPS version, but I ain't gonna rebuy it. But anyway, it's just like, why the defense? What is it, just for you watching this, what is it about the Switch that, do you feel it's getting unfairly attacked? And then it's like the extreme, one extreme creates another extreme. I know in the beginning, there's a lot of ignorant people talking about Nintendo and the Switch. Now that it's selling so well, it's got as many games as it's got, it can't be ignored anymore. But why the defense? Like, why is it like, I'd rather just focus on the positives. If that's who you are, that's who you are. I know a lot of people, including myself, focus on negatives. And that's what what you always say. You could do 100 things right for somebody. You do one thing wrong, and that's what they'll talk about the rest of their life, is that one thing wrong you did. That one time you messed up, or they felt like you cost them something, or did something wrong. They'll remember that. They won't remember the 100 things you did right. So maybe that's it. But at the same time, I don't really follow anybody who's just like shitting on the Switch from an ignorant standpoint. I just feel like people are like, all right, I'm ready for the next system. I'm looking forward to see what Nintendo can do. I've said many times, I would love to see Xenoblade Chronicles 3, Bayonetta 3, Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. I would love to see those games just running at 1080p, 60 frames per second. You don't have to do anything else. You don't have to massively improve textures. Just give me a clean image and a consistent frame rate. Hell, 30. A locked 30 for Age of Calamity. That's all I'm asking for. Like, I'm not asking for, for Horizon Forbidden West or Forza Horizon 5 visuals on the Switch 2. I'm just asking for Nintendo's quality, product, art styles, great games, in a clear, crisp image and a good frame rate, whether it's 30 locked or 60 locked. That's all I'm asking for. I don't know why that's, like, why would you not want that? How can you defend something without people talking about the same subject for the 100x time? How can you defend something without... I don't know what you're referring to. Without people, same subject for the 100x time. Yeah, you might want to reword that. I'm not quite sure what you mean. I think it's because it's so successful and we're getting a lot of support now in third parties and things like that. Anything you say that's a legit gripe people can't take for some reason. I'm just asking the question. I don't understand. I love the Wii U. It's my favorite Nintendo system. It wasn't the best, like, build quality. Had that cheap plastic that scratched easily. The system was just... It was just design wise, I mean, it must have took somebody a day to design that system. It wasn't, it's just a very basic shape. Nothing special about it. What, it had 2 USB ports. They were 2.0 when 3.0 was coming out. Great. I got 2 of the Pro controllers with some custom skins. Love the system. Gamepad battery was trash. 2.5 hours if I was playing off TV. 2:45 maybe. If I put the brightness down to 2 and the audio really low, I could maybe get 3 hours. That was trash. I basically had it plugged in the whole time. People talk about the DualShock. Oh my God, I get about 6-7 hours on the DualSense, I should say, because I get over an hour after I get the low battery. I played for over an hour of Cyberpunk, after the low battery thing came on, so I get like 6-7 hours on that. Gamepad was 2.5. The Switch is 2:45, 2.5 with Breath of the Wild. But anyway, the Wii U, I didn't like that they had the analog stick up here. I would have preferred it being down, the 360 style. So as much as I love this controller, I could never be as good with it because the analog stick placement, my muscle memory. I didn't like the clunkiness of the operating system when it come to going into settings and tweaking stuff. Like, you had to have the gamepad and it was just slow. But I love the Wii U. I can say the things that maybe were a little lacking. It was a little behind the times, like I said, on connections. Been nice to have maybe another USB because you had the Smash. Maybe did I have them in the front? Yeah, I had them in the front. That's what it was. You had that tray, and you didn't want to leave anything, like, I didn't want to leave stuff plugged into the front all the time because it looked bad. That's when I put the GameCube adapter, so I had 4, 2 in the back, 2 in the front. But I had my extendable storage because it only had 32 gigs. You couldn't do an SD card, so I had to have an external hard drive that was 1 port, and then I had my Ethernet adapter. That's the other thing, didn't have an Ethernet port. So as much as I love the damn Wii U, somebody just said analog triggers. No analog triggers. That hurt it. Cheap plastic in the console itself. The gamepad battery sucked. The analog sticks, I wish they had done what they did on the Switch Pro controller and had the 360 style. I don't know what you call that. So I love the Wii U, but I can admit that there's things that weren't great about it. The system sold like crap. The operating system, like I said, was clunky at times. There's features they didn't utilize. But still my favorite system. And a lot of it was the great games, but it was the Miiverse. I just really liked it. The off-TV play was, for me, that was peak football. I wouldn't miss a second of a game. But I could have the game. I could be playing something casually, pause, look up, watch the play. In other words, the people are talking about a more powerful Switch day one. It wasn't day one. People was quiet. Now people get annoyed of hearing the same thing after a year. Now we're annoyed of being annoyed. I mean, maybe there are some people. There's a difference between, like I said earlier, the Switch Pro fake news rumors. Oh, I have a source. There's a difference between that and 6 years later, people discussing what the Switch 2 could be, And who cares? Somebody's saying, I'm looking forward to the Switch 2. If you're not, what do you got to go defend Nintendo for? Oh, well, it's selling. Why would Nintendo? Why? Why do you care that it's selling? Like, are you getting profit sharing? Like I said, just if somebody says, man, I can't, 6 years later, man, I really miss having music. I went back to the Wii U or the 3DS and you have the music at the OS. Why is that worth defending? Why is that worth calling somebody out? Like, you're sick of people saying that. I'm sick of people quote tweeting some innocent tweet to defend the Switch and Nintendo for no reason. They're not being attacked. That's what I'm sick of. Like, yeah, Super Metal Dave, I blocked him or muted him or whatever years ago. I could give 2 shits about his fake ass sources for Metroid Prime 4 development and the Switch Pro, all that. Anybody who still watches Super Metal Dave, I'm sorry. I have to question your your tastes in YouTube content and your gullibleness for keep falling for the same shit. The dude said Sony was coming out with a Switch killer like 2018, 2019. Never came out. Never gets held accountable. I get that. You know, like I said, why do you care if somebody's like, man, I really wish the Switch had analog triggers, man. I just, that would be so great. I could play more racing games, could take advantage of that. There's some gameplay like with the adaptive trigger. Man, I wish the Switch had analog triggers. Then here it comes. Oh, the Switch is 120 million sold, and Nintendo uses this operating system. Nintendo had to do this, and the Wii U was a failure. About why? Just say, yeah, that would, you know, or skip it. Just ignore it. Or you could say, yeah, the analog triggers would be cool. It's not going to happen, but it'd be cool. Like, why the need to defend Nintendo against a comment like that? That's what bothers me. It's not like, oh man, Nintendo, like, what did I say, Linus. Nintendo's working on being the most hated company in all of gaming. Okay, really? That's what big YouTubers think because Nintendo copyright claims some of their videos. That would be someone where I'd be like, yeah, you're way off there. Like, I could see somebody saying that, yeah, you're completely off. Nintendo's a really well-liked company by the majority of gamers. They don't think of Nintendo as a hated company. That is big YouTuber thoughts. So something like that, yeah. Or somebody's like, oh, this Nintendo just makes Mario and Zelda. They don't make anything. Oh, they make Mario, Zelda, and Pokemon games. Yeah, if you see that, then you can easily point out all the other games, all the big sales for Animal Crossing, like how well Breath of the Wild, Zelda, but Splatoon, how well Splatoon 3 sold, Luigi's Mansion, you know, oh, that's just a Mario. Well, it's not. What other big IPs? You know, Smash Brothers, yeah, it's got Mario in it, but, you know, there's some ignorant comments. I get that. And some of them, you can't help but comment on and say, hey, that's completely wrong. But somebody's saying, man, I wish the Switch had themes. Really? You feel compelled to quote tweet that and say, well, you don't play themes, you play games. But, like, really? That's just stupid shit to me. Like, that tells me you have nothing better to do. Like, go play some games. You know, I know everybody, I waste time on Twitter too while I'm at work and stuff. I get caught up in things, but just, I mean, it's such innocent stuff that's what bothers me. And like I said, everybody demanding for every game to come to Switch. Any legit shortcoming or complaint gets met with defense. Like I said, why isn't the Switch? Why is it still $299 for a 32 gig model Switch 6 years after it came out? Why? You know, in that time span, let's see, we got the PS4 Slim. Actually, that was the year before the Switch. Xbox did a revamp, price drop, slightly improved system a few years after. Nintendo 3DS, they did the Lite. Or the DS, I'm sorry. They did the Lite a year or two after. 3DS, you got the XL, which was an improved design. Then you got the new. There's a precedent for systems as time goes on improving and price drops, and I don't see anybody talking about it. Yeah, I get it still sells. PS4 still sold. PS4 was still selling. You know. The DS was still, DS got off to a slow start, but when the DS was selling greatly, they came out with the DSi. Why? The DS was selling. Why did they come out with the DSi? Why did they lower the price of the DS? Like, because that's when the system development gets so cheap, you pass the savings on to the customer, or you give them more for their money. That's what Nintendo used to do. What actually annoyed me is there isn't any Nintendo podcast that talks strictly about the actual games on the system in a while. Bland New podcast today was in the first and last time without specs talks. I mean, games don't come out that often. How boring would it be for a podcast just talking about Okay, we got Fire Emblem Engage. What? And then what? How many months until the next game? What are you supposed to talk about? Well, I still talk about. I talk about Breath of the Wild all the time. You can't talk like as somebody who runs a podcast for since 2014, almost every week. You can't just talk about games. There's not enough Nintendo games out to talk about. You know, they put out a lot of games, the most first-party games out of anybody. Not enough to fill a weekly podcast for a year. I'm sorry, it's just the way it is. And like I said, year 6, that's Nintendo's life cycle normally. With the Wii U, you don't think we talked about the Wii U sales failure? We don't think we talked about like Nintendo not showing up to E3 and all the controversy. We talked about the Xbox One's failures. I mean, you can't talk about games every day, all the time. You just can't. Like, if you want, there's channels where they just analyze games. They'll review games. They'll go deep dives, do deep dives into games from the past, you know, distant past or to recent past. Like Elden Ring, there's deep dive videos on Elden Ring. One thing I don't like is I don't like to try to break down like Tears of the Kingdom theories. Like, oh, what does this mean? I mean, the first time they showed it, we talked about it, but you can do that once. Like, how many times can you break down Tears of the Kingdom? Zeltech channel. I can't stay subscribed to that. How many freaking times can you milk a 30-second teaser? Like, how many videos can you milk that out of? Like, let's see, if they would drop the base price of the Switch, then I'm sure we'd see a big boom in sales again anyway, because they have the OLED out, so why not? Exactly. Drop the OLED to 300, the base Switch to 250. I guarantee you're not going to have a 21% decline in hardware sales next fiscal year. You know, like, not going to happen. I got bored with Breath of the Wild channels. I mean, every time we bring it up on the podcast, it becomes a discussion. It's that game. I'm not going to seek videos out, but it's hard not to talk about. I played it for 4.5 hours yesterday, so there's those rare games. I could, you know, you guys don't want to hear me talk about Elden Ring. Like, if it's just me and Clockted who played it. If all of us had played it, I guarantee you we'd talk about that game a shit ton. Pretty sure you did what? You think I talked about games for the Wii U every podcast? How many games did the Wii U have per year? Like 5? The best year had like 6 maybe? You can't talk about games all the time, man. I'm just telling you, you can't. Unless you want to talk about PlayStation and Xbox, but even then, it's like, oh wow, Dead Space remakes previews are out. Let's talk about Dead Space, you know, like, oh, then those come out. Let's talk about Dead Space reviews. And then Fire Emblem Engage impressions. Like, you do when new games come out, we get impressions of the new game. But if Microsoft lays off a bunch of employees and they announce that, or I think we already knew this, but Perfect Dark is now being co-developed by Crystal Dynamics, we're going to talk about that. Nintendo fiscal report comes out. Terrell's going to go over the sales numbers. If E3's coming up, we're going to make predictions about games, yeah. Hardware, possibly, announcements. PSVR 2, you know, the price, the lack of backwards compatibility. We talk about that stuff. You can't just talk about video games specifically. You have to talk about everything. People think you have to pick a side. Specs talk have overtaken game talk. I mean, how much spec talk have I done in this hour and a half? Like 5 minutes when I just theorized about what the Switch 2 could be based on a few things. I mean, most of this has just been talking about people. I gave my impressions of Cyberpunk. But anyway, we want to talk about Cyberpunk more because it's fun with the glitches. It is. That's the thing. I know I had a little chat. I don't know why some people thought that me posting 3 videos of funny glitches. Now, I did say I don't want to see any replies. I didn't see any glitches. I didn't want to see any of those replies because I know it's not true. So some people thought that was like, oh man, you're just ripping this game, and I was stunned. Honestly, I was like, I don't even know what to say to that. Like, I don't even know what to say. You think that's me ripping the game? Then you don't know me at all. If I'm gonna rip a game, I'm not one. I don't sugarcoat. I'm not gonna sit there and dance around it. I'm gonna rip a freaking game. Um, yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying, SK, because there's not a single Nintendo podcast that I follow anymore. I just don't. It's different. Back in the Wii U days, YouTube was a little newer for a lot of people. There was a lot of cool channels sprouted up. I listen to podcasts all the time, but at some point, I'd say Cyberpunk is a decent game. Could have been a great game, but the open world I feel was a big fail. Anyway, go back and watch the beginnings because I talked about it for like 20 minutes. A lot of YouTubers. It was exciting. A lot of people felt that loved the Wii U. Were looking for other people like them. You listen to podcasts, but at some point, as much as like I loved Active Gamer Life, like Red Knight, he was my favorite person to listen to. Then you had Mizza T was doing content all the time. Lots of other channels, Gamers at Large. You had a lot of channels. At some point, you can only hear people talk about the same topics so much. That's why I stopped doing. Back then, a while ago, I stopped doing like all the people's podcasts. I'll do Sandstorms when he invites me, because you just talk about the same thing. You want to talk about getting burnt out, about like listening to other podcasts. Imagine going on 3 podcasts answering the same damn questions. Like I'm gonna do my Game of the Year podcast. I wouldn't want to do 3 other podcasts discussing the Game of the Year. Like, I'm just gonna do the one. I'm not gonna do 3. Like, that to me got boring. But yeah, Red Knight fell hard. He became an Xbox like defender, like aggressive Bible thumping level Xbox guy. And I don't know what happened. Him and I had a falling out over frickin' Hellblade of all damn games, because I liked it. He didn't like it before. Now he likes it because he's just all bleeding green now. I said, man, I really enjoyed this game. I thought it was great. He plays it. I don't know if it was on Game Pass yet. Said it was trash, and I only liked it because it had a female lead character. And I'm like, dude, I said, you like the Hobbit movies, and I think those are trash. So everybody's got their own opinion. Like, what? I don't understand, And then it just said, it just kind of mushroomed or ballooned out. It just kept like a domino effect. And then it's like, damn, dude, like I'll say something and I'll be like, I wish I hadn't said that. But like, and somebody will say something to me. I'm like, damn, that was harsh. The next day, I don't give a shit. Ask Mizza T. That shit is like water off a duck's back. I don't care at all. Like, I could be friends. Like, T and I could have an argument today about, let's say, Game Pass or something. And then tomorrow, or Monday, before the podcast, we talk about football playoffs. Like that's what happens when you're like really actual, genuine friendship. You shouldn't let that stuff bother you, like that little shit. So, sorry, I went on a bit of a rant. There's no way he still likes Xbox. I'd be shocked if he didn't go all in with Xbox last year. Like, I don't know, man. That's the whole Game Pass thing is just, like I said, T and I have argued about this. It's a rental service. Like, it's a monthly rental service. I just don't understand it being talked about above that. That's what it is. Microsoft pays to have games on there. You pay them to play them. As soon as you stop paying them, you can't play the game anymore. It's just that simple. It's not pro-consumer. It's not anti-consumer. It's just a service. If you feel it's worth the money, if you get it for a month or 2, play some games, cool. If you like those games and you feel compelled to buy them, even cooler. I just don't understand why it's talked up like it's the greatest thing in gaming. It's the greatest value in gaming. It's the greatest value in gaming if you just want to play some games and not own them, and or try some games. Get it for a month, try a couple games instead of just buying them. You spent $10. You maybe tried 10, 12 games. You found a couple you like. Cool. That's how Game Pass should be used, in my opinion. I think anybody's a fool for just paying for a year. Just paying every month for a year, paying a year in advance. I don't even know if you can, and just saying, "Oh wow, I got this game on this month. I can play this game for free on Game Pass." Like, that shit just drives me nuts. Red Knight blocked me for saying there's a great game on all platforms. So what? Nintendo don't give other platforms fill the gap. Exactly. Except for Xbox doesn't fill the gap because they have shit in the last 14 months. Pentiment. I'm sorry. Got good reviews. People seem to like it. If that's your game, if that's your one game for the year, you had a failed year. Now, if that one game you had, let's say Starfield comes out and it's freaking amazing. It's like the Breath of the Wild for Bethesda. It's an amazing game. Yeah, one game. I'll say, all right, they had that one great game. Like Forza Horizon 5. They had that great game. Ori and the Will of the Wisps and Forza Horizon 5. Those two great games. All right. Cool. But do you think this year's going to be great for Xbox? No. I think Starfield's going to get delayed, and while I think it's going to be a good game, possibly a great game, I don't expect it to be polished. I expect there to be issues. I think Redfall is going to be... it's going to get a lot of downloads, Xbox stats. Oh, 20 million downloads, 20 million users that played it for 4 or 5 hours, 10 hours, and then they never played it again. That's the type of game it's going to be. Maybe because maybe there's enough Game Pass loyalists to make Redfall stay successful, like Sea of Thieves apparently is the game. But nothing about that game design has really ever lasted. You got your Fortnites, your Apex. Those are the exceptions. If people play Valorant still, I don't know. Forza Motorsports, I mean, come on. Like, even in its prime, like, what kind of impact does Forza Motorsports have? Forza Horizon has greatly surpassed Forza Motorsports. I don't care what anybody says. That sales wise, I would imagine Horizon's above the Motorsports series at this point. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's like Sony had Gran Turismo 6 or 7 last year. No one talked about it. Sony fans, Xbox fans, no one talked about it because it's a freaking sim racing game at this point. Like, there's an audience for that, but it's not a huge audience. What can you even talk about in terms for Xbox? Don't even know. Like, I hope Starfield turns out, even though I still fail to see how give Microsoft full credit for that when Bethesda was already, was supposed to be out like within months after the deal was done. So that game has been in development. That's a Bethesda game. That's not a Microsoft Studios game. They'll put Microsoft Studios in front of it because they own them now. That is a Bethesda game. So it's hard for me to just say, oh yeah, that's a Microsoft. Like when Destiny 2's DLC comes out, I'm like, oh, that's a PlayStation game right there. That's PlayStation. No, they own freaking Bungie. Doesn't mean instantly their games are Sony games. Now, if they have them make a Killzone or something, yes, that's a Sony game. But so Starfield, Redfall. I think Redfall is going to be a flash in the pan. That's just my prediction. Forza Motorsport's going to be a graphical showcase, but it's probably going to get a lot of downloads, just like Forza Horizon. There's going to be people play it for an hour or 2 hours to check it out. Because if you have Game Pass, that's what bothers me about Microsoft. They're always fudging the numbers. Oh, we had this many games shipped to stores. Oh wait, what does that mean? This is a console launch exclusive. What does that mean? Oh, we had 20 million unique users play whatever High on Life, oh, okay, so how many people actually played the game past like first hour? How many people played till the end? Like, yeah, I can't imagine only gaming on Xbox. Xbox annoys me that they don't even make more games than the 3 they have. Like, come on, dude, y'all been in this how long? You still don't have a decent enough first party lineup. Wait till E3. That's my answer. Wait till E3. That's what I've been hearing for 5 years? Oh, they got all these studios. Once they get rolling, they're going to have all these first party. Game Pass is just going to be a new first party game every quarter. When? Show me. Don't just tell me. And why would you even believe them? This just turned into an Xbox rant, but why would you believe anything they say? When are they? You didn't even get 2 games last year. And you're going to talk about a new game every quarter? Hellblade. Where's Hellblade? Ninja Theory. They're in frickin' Iceland. Like, who else did they buy? Like, Playground Games is supposed to be making Fable, but, when are we going to see it? What else is there? Avowed. Is that going to be 2 years from now? Is that going to be 3 years from now? Is that, what kind of game is it? What's that one? There's that. I said it last week or something. Like, I couldn't think it starts with a C. They showed like the inside of a trailer park or a trailer, and a title screen. Not Dead by Daylight. Dying Light? No, not Dying Light. What's that? They had a 2 a couple years ago, and the 3rd game was announced. Forget what it's called. What was even the last game that came out yet that they have all these studios? The last official game was Halo Infinite, I think. Because Psychonauts 2, they bought them after that game had been in development. It's on PlayStation. Forza Horizon 5, Halo. Here's something. Since I'm ranting about Xbox, I don't know if T's going to be listening to this. Going on how many hours? What are we at? Hour 50. Crossfire X. I remember that was shown in multiple Xbox showcases. Remedy Games. They worked on the single player. That game came out last year. Late 2021, I believe. Let me look. It's an Xbox exclusive. Xbox and PC, I believe. Talked about Xbox guys. It was shown and all the time in their so Game Pass. When did it come out? February 2022. State of Decay. That's the one. State of Decay 3. Who here knows or who here heard anybody talk about Crossfire X? It's available on Xbox One, Series S, and X. And I'm guessing PC. No, doesn't. It's a Xbox console exclusive. So they paid for Crossfire X. Anybody tell me one thing? You know anybody that played it? Let me tell you, the IGN gave it a 3. Its Metacritic is pretty bad. Let me get the actual number. I guess it was on PC. 38 on Metacritic. The only reason I knew that game came out, it was on people's top worst games of the 2022 list. That was an Xbox console exclusive. I don't know if they paid for the development or what. They got that. They got Pentiment. I don't know when High on Life came out. It's like you bought all these studios. Like, where are the games? And I used to listen to Next Gen. They talked about the 50s and 60 Metacritic games. The Crackdown 3. State of Decay 2. Grounded. I don't know what Grounded got. What was Ninja Theory's game? I don't know why. I wouldn't mind having a Series X if there was a couple games I absolutely needed. Bleeding Edge. Let's see what Bleeding Edge got. That's a Game Pass game. It's on Game Pass, guys. It's on Game Pass. Who gives a shit? Bleeding Edge. 66, so it's not as bad. Don't think anybody played it. Halo Infinite sucked ass. These are the companies you bought. These are the games. Like, let's see what Grounded ended up. I don't know if that actually came out. Is it actually out yet, or is it still beta or whatever? Grounded for Xbox. 82. So people like that, or the reviewers like that game. Only 27 people reviewed it though. So users 7.7. So not a bad scoring game. Anybody playing it, I wonder? Official date was September 27th, 2022, even though the beta was out for like a year or two before. Halo Infinite was pretty good. I played Crossfire X on Game Pass. It's terrible. Yeah, it's like one of the worst first-person Call of Duty clones since, like, God, I forget what that one was called. Hard, something with the H. That's what you're getting. Now, let's say this year you get Starfield and it's good. Let's say Redfall's a really fun game. Whether or not a bunch of people stick with it or not. Let's say Forza Motorsports is the best in the series, for sim racing. That's a decent year. Let's say possibly Hellblade 2 comes out, or I don't know what else could possibly come out. That wouldn't be a bad year. Just give me even something like Lil Cray to the Bone, my buddy. Played Rocket League together. He's on the podcast once or twice years ago. He's on Twitter. He just got a PS5 barely used for $400, and he's buying Kana Bridge of Spirits. He already bought it. It's the first game he bought. Even if Series X had that game, just a game of that caliber, I might be tempted to buy one because last few times I was at the store they were available. Just something of the level of Kana Bridge of Spirits, and I might buy your system. Not the gunk. Not, I don't know about High on Life. I haven't watched any reviews or anything. It doesn't look that interesting to me. I know it's supposed to be funny. Just give me a Kana level game. I didn't play the cat game that got nominated for Game of the Year. It doesn't look like it's worthy of that, but it starts with an S. I can't think of what it's called. Let alone, I'm talking Kana level, like 8.8 type of game, 8.5 maybe. Could have been. Music was great, art style, but I'm not even talking about like something to the level of like Horizon Forbidden West. God forbid, God of War Ragnarok. God, if Microsoft could get something of that caliber, just quality, polished, great narrative with great gameplay. If they could get something, God, I'd have an Xbox and wouldn't even think twice about it if they had a game of that caliber. Returnal. Speaking of Red Knight, last time I seen him in my chat, he called that game shovelware. Said it looked like shovelware. It's one of the frickin'... It's the best controlling third-person game I've ever played. Best, like, third-person shooting controls. Robert agreed. The game's phenomenal. Fluid. If Xbox had... They'd just dream of having a game of that caliber. What else is there? Like Demon Souls remake. I know it's a remake. But shit, even something like that. Like, just something to buy the system for. Because Game Pass ain't a reason to buy a system. I'm sorry. Game Pass is something to get you by or a way to test games. For me, that's what it is. I'm not going to spend 120 or 180 a year to play games I'll never own. Like, yeah, with PlayStation Plus, I got it the last time so I could play Elden Ring online. I've downloaded a few games. I've enjoyed them. I just downloaded Axiom Verge 2. Played about 30 minutes. Fucking loved it. Can't wait to play more. You know, that's one thing. I'm already paying for the online, so now I'm getting these games that I can play. Now, I'm not probably going to renew again, but at the same time, and I'll lose access to that game, so, you know, that's the same thing, but I'm paying 60. I'm not paying 120 or 180. What's your thoughts on those power games seeming getting worse in terms of heavy hitters, unique games, and output way down outside of indies? I'm the wrong person to ask because I live, breathe, and die for these big Horizons, God of Wars, Elden Rings. I eat that shit. Like, I love that. Third person, big adventure game. I'd rather have that. I'd rather have 3-4 of those a year than have a shit ton of indie games. That's just me personally. I'm just, it's so oversaturated, but I will say the power when games are like Cyberpunk, you have all these issues. It's like, you know, I don't think it has anything to do with the power. It just has the development team. But I don't know if you haven't watched or heard me talk in a while. I am 100% satisfied as a PS5 owner playing cross-gen games at, you know, 4K or 1440p upscale, whatever, 60 to 100 frames per second. I am absolutely loving that experience. So Horizon Forbidden West with VRR support unlocked, I think runs like 70, 80 frames per second in performance mode. Looks freaking is better than any game I've ever seen. God of War Ragnarok looks crystal, crisp. Runs at 80 to 90 frames per second, super smooth. I would rather have that than a Plague Tale implementing some global illumination lighting that makes the fucking, every time you turn the camera it stutters. Game targets 30 and drops to 20. It's not a smooth experience. The world's completely static. Like, I don't want that. That's not what I want the power put to. I want the power put to having a really smooth experience. Like I said, I will take PS4 cross-gen games running at 80, 90 FPS, looking super clean, super crisp, beautiful visuals, over pushing the system to the limits, going 4K native and 20 to 30 frames per second with things that don't really impact how they, like, I think Horizon Forbidden West looks better than a Plague Tale, yet a Plague Tale uses all these advanced things that drops the frame rate down to like stuttering and shit. So I absolutely love the PS5. The hardware I like I said, I'm really enjoying these games, playing them in smooth, fluid, above 60 FPS on my variable refresh rate OLED TV. I'm in gaming bliss. It does suck that Elden Ring, unfortunately. Something about that game engine. That's the least performing game I own or bought last year that I played. It has some pretty major stuttering at times, but yeah, I'm all for it. Like, I don't need a ton of games per year. I don't need 20 small games. I'd rather have 3 big games that are really good than 20 small games that are good. Because to me, and this is just me, I would rather have a game that I can put 50 plus hours into and just be sucked in and just don't want to turn it off and want to live in that world than play a 5-hour one-off experience. That's just me. I'm not saying that it's bad. That 5-hour game might be great for the people that like that, but to me, the tutorial, before you even get grips with all the mechanics and the gameplay and stuff, that's your 5 to 10 hour mark for me. I wanna play a game that when I start, I'm like, oh shit, how do I do this? And then figure stuff out. 5-10 hours into it, I'm starting to get the hang of it. By hour 20, 30, I'm a freaking master. You can't do that for me personally. I don't get that satisfaction in a 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 hour game. Like, I just don't. Like, I played God of War Ragnarok and like two sessions, and I was at like 13 hours or 10 hours or whatever. That's the entire length of a Plague Tale, and I was just getting started. So, what do you want from Nintendo's next system? No one will have to support mobile option. I just want, like I said, I just want their current level visuals, like your Xenoblade Chronicles 3 or Luigi's Mansion, Animal Crossings, Tears of the Kingdom. Just want that level of visuals at a nice, clean, crisp 1080 or above, sharp, resolution. I don't want blurriness. I don't want drops, sub HD drops anymore. I'd like to see more 60 frames per second games, or at the very least, locked 30 FPS games. That's all I need. I don't, and just an ergonomic system without these things. Hopefully they don't use these, or at least don't force it like that. I want a comfortable system portably. I want a good docked experience that takes advantage and looks good on a 4K TV, because I know a few people who still have 1080, but most people nowadays have 4K screens. I just want Nintendo to keep doing the great art style. Just quit pushing the system so far that you're getting bad performance and making major visual sacrifices. So that's all I want. But anyway, most people have dropped out, so I'm just rambling. Capable Ty, what's up? I didn't see you were here. Last of Us 2 and God of War run super well on PS5. Yeah, they got 60 FPS patches. They don't load like super fast, but PS5 game I'm looking forward to. You got to be specific. I buy PlayStation games to play all the big third-party games that don't come to Switch, or if they come to Switch, they're shitty on Switch, and for whatever Sony exclusives I like. So I'm looking forward to Resident Evil 4 remake. Hopefully the Dead Space remake is good, but I don't know. There's not enough release dates. So does Stellar Blade make it out this year? Because if so, I'm looking forward to that. I don't think the Forspoken demo has turned me off to that game, so I'm not really looking forward to that anymore. I think it's going to kind of suck. Final Fantasy 16 don't really care about, so we'll have to see. Not at this point. It's probably going to be a down year for PlayStation for me, unless Elden Ring DLC comes out. I do have, I'll be playing it, but as far as PS5 games, I got Sekiro I got to start. I got to finish Cyberpunk. I feel like I have another game. I might try to start like Mass Effect Trilogy or something like that before I lose my PlayStation Plus membership. But yeah, definitely the big hitter for me this year is Tears of the Kingdom. Other than that, I don't really care. Like Resident Evil 4 would be number 2, the remake. Other than that, I'm not. Pikmin 4, whatever. I hope if it looks good, I'll pick it up. That over the shoulder perspective really looks like could change up the game. I'll probably pick it up. Other than that, there's not enough confirmed, locked in release dates of games I care about. So anyway, this went on way longer than I planned. So thanks for tuning in. Give Clocked It something to listen to. I'm sure he's gonna pull his hair out a few things I said. I don't care about Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man 1, it's okay. That's a maybe 7.5 out of 10 kind of game. I don't understand all the love Insomniac gets. I just don't understand it. Their games are just kind of shallow. no, what is it? A style over substance, visuals over substance. I don't understand. But I enjoyed Spider-Man 1 more towards the end than I did in the beginning. But yeah, I'm not like, oh my god, I gotta play that game. So shit, I didn't realize it's 10 o'clock. So I'm gonna go check out some playoff football, see what the score is, and we'll see you guys on Monday for the Game of the Year podcast for 2022. And again, thanks for tuning in.